I just came home with 5,322 photos on my camera, mostly of bees and flowers. It is such a small camera, but it turns out it still fills up a really big memory card on a single stroll through the garden. But before I delete them, I need to look through what I've got and look for the failures that are on my drive. So it's important that I do spend the time and see what I shot and see what I could do differently or do better the next time I go out. I went out this morning to take a few macro shots for a video that I'm working on. I already have a lot of great macro shots from the Himalayas, from the Australian outback, and even from the very same botanical gardens that I walked this morning. But I wanted something fresh. I like to make an effort for my videos, and I saw the sunshine was out early. So I figured I'd take a walk to the gardens, do an hour of photography, still get back home in time for lunch. I was wrong about everything. I didn't only walk, I took the tram for half the journey because I walked so slowly and I was worried I was going to miss the light. And when I got there and started taking photos of the flowers, I just kind of got into it. Like, I didn't really need 5,000 photographs of bees, but I just kept going and going and going. The camera didn't run out of batteries. The 128 gig card didn't fill up. The camera kept going, and so did I. High-speed continuous burst is partly to blame here. I use this for a lot of wildlife and macro. I have a custom setup on my cameras just for macro, and on my Lumix S9 that means the following. Wide open aperture, that would be f2.8 on the funky 100mm macro on my Lumix. Auto ISO with a fairly high minimum shutter of 1/800th of a second, and quick access to adjust the minimum shutter, along with quick access to near focus for those times when I push in super close and the AF now needs to know to search closer instead of further. Autofocus for macro is a real joy for me. It lets me adapt really quickly to changing situations. Manual focus for macro really slows down my creative zone, and macro is a creative thing for me. I'm not trying to capture the sharpest image of a beetle and show every hair on the back legs. I'm looking for beautiful moments through the lens, and so I'm using shallow depth of field as a tool for composition. And when you're shooting at f2.8 on a macro, you get beautiful bokeh, and it makes the light do pretty things too. I think a lot of people see macro as something very technical, but it doesn't have to be. It can be very, very creative. So I love the autofocus on the 100mm macro by Lumix. It's killer fast, and not just in the macro range. It's got dual motors for autofocus, which makes it kind of special and kind of different. I can use this lens for a festival event and expect just as fast performance from the autofocus as shooting flower petals up close. But for macro, I'm using the autofocus to get me close to where I need to be, but I don't assume it will always get it right. I tap the shutter to grab focus and start a continuous burst of captures. And then I might push the lens manually through a very small range. I'm taking tens of shots instead of just one. Somewhere in that series of shots taken with continuous burst will be the correct focus for the composition that I want. Anytime you're shooting wildlife, it really is worth going hard on that continuous burst. It is worth shooting a bunch of shots that you know you will delete, because somewhere in there might be that 1 in 100 that really nails it. If you think about a bee moving about, and it's on a flower that's also moving about in the breeze, and I'm trying to hold still, but even me is moving about, because you don't really hold it still, you're moving a little bit. And just with everything moving about, it's a good idea to let that continuous burst roll and dial in a nice high shutter speed so you come home with thousands of photos, most of which are trash, but some of them are just really, really lovely. that goes some way towards explaining how I ended up with 5,322 photos today. The other factor at play is that I was just enjoying my day out shooting. I was having fun. I kind of got into the zone and I felt like I was getting some good stuff. So I didn't really want to stop. I'd already cancelled my editing for the afternoon and just wandered through the gardens for a few more hours instead. And I kept finding new flowers to capture and new leaves and some weird bugs. I think anytime you're feeling good about your photography, you should give yourself permission just to keep at it. The good light kind of clouded over around noon anyway, so I was pushing the ISO way high for most of the afternoon. And again, who cares? I was just enjoying being out there. And frankly, that's kind of a rare treat for working professionals. I spend so much of my time chained to the edit desk and exhausted from shoots and anxious about having let another month slip by without getting my MailChimp out. When you get a moment to just be in the moment and experience what you enjoy, I recommend you take it. So now I have 5,322 photos to trawl through on my hard drive. And I have to edit this video as well, and I had not planned on doing any of this today. I have actual paying clients who are waiting for emails and downloads and updates, and I'm sorry to those lovely people who helped me avoid starvation. Today was supposed to be a working day, and instead it's become a day just for me. So with thousands of photos ahead to process, the good news for me is I have the benefit of raw workflow. I'm using Capture One at the moment. I can quickly assess the highlights even from 5,000 or so images. It's easier to delete a bunch of photos when you have a few good ones in the bunch. I'll find a few of the good ones and I'll just purge all the rest from my hard drive before the evening is over. Letting go of the raw files is a big part of my professional workflow. In a way, the brutality of deleting stuff helps to drive me to go out and shoot something better. I have made a point to practice letting go and to look forward instead of backwards. But before I delete them, I need to look through what I've got and look for the failures that are on my drive. So it's important that I do spend the time and see what I shot and see what I could do differently or do better the next time I go out. So what did I learn from rummaging through 5,000 plus photos, most of which were rejected? I learnt that the B shots I like best are when their profile is side on. I call that the B side. I also learnt that I tend to start shooting when I can see the bee's bottom. That's not actually very useful. I would be better off picking a spot to focus on that's roughly where the bee exits the blossom. I also found that 1/800th of a second is pretty good for most shots, but for bees in flight, I should dial that up a little higher. And higher shutter speed usually means higher ISO, which is not really a problem because even my shots at 6400 ISO cleaned up just fine in Capture One. You don't end up with any sign of noise, although you can lose a little bit of dynamic range. These sensors are actually super nice at high ISO and certainly miles better than a blurry bee. The final lesson hiding in my collection before deleting nearly 5,000 files was that the shots I liked the most are the ones that I didn't expect. Those moments when light bounced through layers I didn't know were there until I shoved a lens into the foliage. We photographers like to think that pure talent is the causation of our best images, but let's not underplay the role of serendipity. I love it when my camera surprises me. Taking time to experiment with the light, even if you don't know for sure where that will take you, is a great way to find a little magic. I shot 5,322 images, but I only kept 500. That means 9 out of every 10 shots I take is rubbish. And of those I kept, you may argue some of them are rubbish too. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But it's worth remembering that professional photographers take a lot of photos that are straight up trash. We don't shoot perfect photos every time the camera comes out. It's okay to take a bunch of shots and get it wrong and then go out and try again and try to do better. That's how we learn, not from getting it right, but from looking closely at how we got it wrong. Deleting lots of trashy images isn't the end of the world, not if you took the time to dig through them and learn from them. I will move on and I will try to apply those lessons, and that's the professional part of my brain kicking in now. That's the brain that wants to do better and improve instead of just enjoying the moment and enjoying the flowers. It's hard to switch off that brain, but I will enjoy sharing these photos to my social media, my Mastodon account, and help fill up a few more hard disks in data centers across the planet and speed up global warming just that little bit more. All that from a little walk in the gardens today. What a time to be alive. Thanks for joining me for this chat. I hope you are inspired to have just a day for yourself too. Please like and subscribe, or visit my website, or please drop a flower emoji below to say hello, and have a great day.